but it's about each of you, sharpening each other, right? You have to hold each other accountable. You have to challenge each other. You have to perform in a way that other guys and gals can see, right? So that concept of we get better together and iron sharpens iron is truly, it resonates with me from my earliest days, right? And I don't know where I first heard it. I think actually it was at Vivint, and I remember who it was. It was my manager who worked for us in El Paso, John Ray. And Jake, I
Mm.
don't know if you remember John Ray, but he's
Yeah.
ex-military, ex-USMC. And,
Oh.
there was hoo-ha in the meetings, and there was, iron sharpens iron and all that other stuff. And I'm like, John, you know what? I'm going to use that, right? Because
Yeah.
it resonates with what we're trying to do here.
That's beautiful, Chris.
Well,
I
thank you
tell
for that.
Jake,
So if
I
I
say,
do 30-second voiceovers if you need an intro to your YouTube channel or anything like
hey,
that.
do it. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We'll pay for intro voiceovers.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, you guys are too young, but back in the day when radio used to be how you'd get your music, right? Anytime somebody was coming to town, Jimmy Buffett, he'd always be on the radio. You're listening to 104.5, right?
Yeah.
Come see me, right?
That's awesome.
So, Chris, you were dropping wisdom, so I went ahead and hit the record button.
Oh,
and
shit.
I'll just throw it in somewhere.
I
'cause
understand
this
you
is
guys are
already
going to
amazing.
make this say whatever you want it to say because
And
you
we're-
have full editing
Yeah,
control.
we're gonna edit. We're gonna make you sound beautiful. We're gonna put filters over all of our faces so we look like younger, sharper, stronger. How jacked do you want to be, Chris?
Yeah, that's good. If you can do that, I'd love that in real life, IRL.
I thought the best way to start off today, and this is for our friends in the audience here, is with a story. And this is really the first real conversation that Chris and I ever had together. So,
Okay.
Chris, you and I go way back.
We do.
Back to the Vivint days. It's been, when we were last talking last week, I think what has it been, about 12 years? I think
13.
since 13 years since I had the pleasure of being a member of your team officially. But I love that, we've been able to maintain the relationship and still talk from time to time. And so I will say, to start off, thank you so much for joining us, because this is truly an
Yes.
honor for Solo and I.
My pleasure, too.
Thank you.
But the way I want to start, and I think this is the best way to introduce you as a leader, and as we dive into the topic of leadership, I think one of the greatest compliments I can say about you is you practice what you preach, and this story will exemplify that. So Solo and I very much believe, as do you, that leadership is about developing others and pouring into the people that you lead.
Mm.
And so the first time that you and I ever had the privilege sitting down together, it was at least a privilege for me. But
It goes both ways. There was a reason why you were in there was a reason why we were together. Yeah.
Yep. So I was living in Arkansas, and I was this young new leader, frontline manager, had a team of 10 or 12, I think, at the time. And I was pretty new in the leadership journey. And, Steve was kind enough to fly me out to Utah, and I had some time on your calendar, and I think we had like half an hour.
We did.
And, you were the vice president of field operations at the time, and a very fast growing organization.
Yeah. In fact, to your point, right? I think when I got there, all of the folks out there doing what you were doing were being managed by the VP of sales, right? So, I mean, there wasn't even an operator in the business. It was a sales run business from the get-go.
And so, field operations, a lot of fun to grow and develop, and you were doing a great job with it. But, you're trying to change the tire on the car. Well, you're trying to put a tire on the car while the car is going down the freeway there. And so we had 30 minutes, and we're talking, and you're giving me wonderful advice and wisdom and things that I can do to grow in my career. And I remember your assistant comes in and she says, "Hey, Chris, it's time for this next meeting." I don't remember what the meeting was, but it was with people that, on the roster of employees were more important than me. And I remember you looked at her and you said, "Hey, this is my time with Jake. I don't get this very often. We're going to have to push that meeting." And I looked, I was like, that is amazing. And I think we spent another hour just talking. And that's not something that a lot of VPs or directors or COOs or whatever the title, right? Senior leadership, that's not a thing that a lot of them would do. I've had other leaders that they'll push one-on-ones for the business meetings. But that right there, like, that is something that has stuck with me forever. Obviously, it's 13 years later and I still remember it. Um, but it just set a standard of like, you know what?
And I,
That's kind of,
it's an interesting conversation. I do remember our time, and I do remember Steve, your director at the time, right, having that conversation with me about, hey, there's somebody you need to meet. Because what we were trying to do was figure out what is the organization, what does the team look like, 3 years from now?
Mm,
How do we invest in people that are going to carry the banner, that are going to do the work, that are going to inspire other people to do this? We knew from Steve and I had a history at a prior company, which maybe we'll get to today, but the reality was we know how hard that is, right? And we worked in a people business, right? I mean, our job was securing people in the place that they call home, right, Jake? I mean, at Vivint, it was home security. It was protecting people from when they were the most vulnerable, or
right.
what they could be vulnerable to. It was a banner that I think we took extremely seriously, right, from that perspective. It wasn't a job, it was a calling at the end of the
Mm,
day. And in order to have that passion, you had to believe in it. As a leader of other people, you had to believe in it. So there was no way I was going to pass up the opportunity to find a young leader like yourself and make the investment to find out more of, is this a journey you want to go on? Is this a journey that you need our help with? Like, how can we, as other leaders in the company, rally around you? And what tools do you need? What reinforcement do you need? What next steps should we be talking about? And that there was no way, my friend, that was gonna happen in a 30-minute conversation, right? I mean, it wasn't that 30 minutes after you made the commitment to leave your customers, leave your team, fly from Arkansas to Utah, there was no way that conversation was gonna fit in 30 minutes. I appreciate that. I think you and I both thought, "Well, we'll make good use of the time." Okay, sure, but we didn't get all the way there, and what was interesting is after the first 30 minutes, clear to me that that you needed to be part of what we were building, right? And so
mm,
in that first 30 minutes, what you gave me back was, I'm here for the right reasons. I want to make a difference, and here's what I believe. And that belief system tied with your capabilities really lined up with what we wanted for your team, your area, and your career at the end of the day, right? There's, as much as we'd like to say, technology, we live in a world of technology and AI and all the other things, so tools. People still run the world, and relationships with people, as I found as a leader, are critical to success, especially in the space that I like to play in, which is growth, right? I like to
mm.
be with growth-minded companies. I am not a what I call inbox to outbox guy. I don't come to work with the idea of I got 15 things in my inbox. By the end of the day, I'll move them to my outbox. That early on, I found out that
That's not
that's
you.
not that's not how this guy runs, right? You give me a challenge that seems insurmountable, and we had plenty of them at Vivint, right? I mean, I think probably one of the biggest things I loved about the culture there was we were not afraid to run out of the building at any point in time and go do something that nobody else had done.
oh,
And you remember the area where we would meet in, uh, but outside the windows is Mount Timpanogos, which is a 14,000-foot peak. And in the
Wow.
wintertime, it's full of snow. And we would meet inside. The conference room was right there, faced out. And we're there in flip flops and shirt like this, and flat brim cap, because that was the culture there, right? At the end of the day, which was wonderful. But at any point in time, somebody could have said, "We need to go put a flag on top of that mountain, like right now." That, like, if Todd, our CEO, had said, "I need you guys to go put a flag on top of that mountain," it wouldn't have been but 30 seconds. All of our butts would have been out the door, out the front door, running towards Mount Timpanogos. We got nothing. We got flip flops. We got a big heart. We got a mindset that's going to kill. And here's the thing that really is, I think, what epitomizes the leadership journey for me. It wasn't about who wasn't going to make it, because it was clear. It was clear. 14,000 feet up in the snow with flip flops and t-shirts. Not all of us were going to make that journey, but if we could get the next guy further up, if we could push the mission along and get closer to the goal, that spirit was insanely intoxicating, right?
Yeah.
And we did We did some amazing things there, not only as an
Mhm.
organization, but I think even as our team. And so it takes people like yourself, and it takes people that are willing to take that step outside of their comfort zone to go and do it. So if I can be a leader that inspires that in other people and actually selects people who who have the, if you will, the common drive and the common mindset, doesn't have to be the same as everybody else, but it has to be something that you can add value to. And you had that, right? That hence the additional hour. But that's what I tend to look for, in people on my teams, right? And sometimes not even on the team, but when you're selecting and meeting, talented people, either during interviews, at lunch at Applebee's, you just never know when you're going to come across somebody that
Mhm.
is going to just say something to you that you say, "Oh my gosh, where have you been?" Right?
Yeah.
I've been looking for you, right? And we need to go do something really, really great together. And I love that about the leadership journey. And it continues, right, for me.
That's beautiful. Chris, how do you inspire that? How do you inspire the type of culture where people look at that mountain and say, You know what? I'm probably not going to make it,
Yeah.
but I'm going to do my dangest to get up there."
Well, here's the thing. I wasn't looking to work at Vivint, right? I got a phone call from a recruiter. I was in Florida at the time, Tampa, 18 years there, 25 years with that company, had grown that company, a company called Nielsen. We did television ratings, right? That's what our business was, research. So we sold data. Right? We didn't even sell a tangible product. We sold data. It was a very, very interesting thing, right? Very interesting thing. Seemed to have a lot of financial components tied to it, which was good
Right.
for business and good for the industry. But when you talk about saving people's lives, I was really intrigued by the concept of Vivint. But at the end of the day, it was still, you have to go into people's homes. You've got to tell them that you are going to protect them. Then you have to go and do that. And you have to do that with almost a 0 degree of failure. I'm not going to say ever you get it perfect, but you really have to do it with a 0 degree of failure. Failure wasn't an option, right?
Yeah.
I grew up during the
Mhm.
time that, they were sending, men off to the moon, right? That's aging myself. But, I remember that as a really young boy. And that type of thing was magical to me. It was like, okay, they put two or three guys in a tin can, shoot them 250,000 miles away, hope that the gravity spins them around and sends them back. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Holy crap,
That's something.
that makes going up to bat in T-ball look a little bit easier at the end of the day, right?" I can probably hit the ball. It'll be okay. So I learned that all of those things happen as I got older. I learned all those things happen because people practice this every day. You practice your craft. You practice acquiring knowledge. And my father, who was a self-made man, right? I mean, he didn't have a whole lot going for him as a young man growing up, and he didn't have any advocates. He was lucky that he finally found the US Army and they straightened him out and gave him an opportunity to go get an education, which he totally utilized and built a life right outside of all the other options. The rest of his family, I never met. I
Hmm.
didn't get to meet them. They didn't make it. So it was when I say he lifted himself out of a bad situation, really did, right? Didn't talk
Mhm.
about it, very humble man, but I realized he had done the work. Growing up in Pittsburgh, which was where, that Midwest value component of the value of work and the value of community, I still think back to those times in terms of how it kind of molded me as a person, which is, trust your community, trust the people that you let in as friends, trust the people who share your vision and your dreams, and then do the work to really, really, really magnify the outcomes. I was lucky enough to be part of teams as a young man in football, baseball, basketball, that won. Was lucky enough to participate, not a star, but participate, right? Takes 5, takes 11, takes 9, whatever it is that you put on the field, everybody's
Mhm.
gotta do your job, and so the whole Tom
Hmm.
Brady thing now resonates with me and Bill Belichick, right? Which is do your job. Do your job. You're one of a many people on the team, everybody's got talents. And so now my job, I guess I feel more compelled now than ever before as a leader. My job is to find those capable people, put them on the field, give them the best tools, give them the best skills, give them the best knowledge, and get them to work together. People who have never met anybody else, right, Jake? I mean, you didn't know
Mhm.
all 1,500 people who worked in our department, at
Right.
Vivint, but you knew enough of them to know where you could go for help, how you could get help, who was maybe in a similar journey like you. And back to the iron sharpens iron, right? That we were talking about at the kickoff of the podcast. You realize that we could help each other. And I think that's where the value really gets unlocked is being able to build teams that believe they can do amazing things and then they actually do. They actually
Yeah.
do it. And to be able to see that happen, to be able to see the rewards that they get as they grow their compensation, as they grow their career, as they grow their teams, and they have people that come up under them that are part of their tree. Solo, I've heard you talk on, your sports analogies and different things on prior podcasts and things of that nature. But it really becomes a coaching tree at the end of the day. And I'm proud that Jake and I still stay in touch. And there's a number of people that, from the 3.5 years I spent at Vivid, not a very long time in the course of a total career, but those were deep relationships. And the reason why they
Mhm.
were there was because they were forged, right? They were forged relationships that come out of the work that we did together.
Hmm.
And I've had that same opportunity with the company I was with earlier in my career. A lot of people who I still know and still communicate with, call friends, from the first day that I took a job, right? At the end of the day. So I try to craft that in my leadership style. But
It's awesome. That's
you guys
fantastic.
tell me let me ask you the question. I'm going to turn tables for just a second. Thinking about your careers, right? Because each of you guys are about halfway through, right? Halfway through what that career arc is, right? So you've had opportunities to have different bosses as well as having different levels of responsibility yourself. What makes a great leader? I mean, what person that you can think of that you learned something from, what made them different? Why did they put a mark on your track forward, right? What was it about them? And I mean, Jake, you kind of shared a little bit with me, and I'm okay. I'm
Mhm.
absolutely okay if there's other better leaders out there that you've worked for, because I'm sure there are. But Solo, maybe we'll start with you. See, I'm turning the tables already. This is what I do, by the way.
It's conversation control. You're a sales guy at the end of the day, right, Chris?
Yeah, I have been known
At
to
your
sell a
core.
few things.
At your core. That's a good question. I've had a lot of fantastic leaders, and I think there's a common thread that goes through all of them. They make me feel a way that brings out the best in me. And then they develop that best in me and they
Mhm.
hold me accountable to that best in me.
Yeah.
I've been in positions where I have not the greatest leaders and I've had fantastic leaders. And I've had these careers where every day I come home and I'm just a better version of me. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband because I feel like I'm accomplishing something and I'm growing and I'm valued and I'm better. And then I've had those leaders in days where I call them driveway days, where I just sitting there and I'm just like, oh my God.
I
And
get
I'm
that.
just drained. And
Mhm.
I can't even think about spending another second having a conversation or talking to another person. And these are the most important people in my whole life, like my wife, my children, things of that
Mhm.
nature. And I ask myself, like, what's the difference? And I feel like it's everything. My leader, first and foremost, great leaders, I think, make me feel valued. They make me feel like my time, my energy, my mind, the things that I'm doing on a daily basis are truly seen and they're valued. Like, well, I appreciate you. The second thing I would say is great leaders, in my experience, have made me better versions of me. They've pointed out blind spots that I couldn't see and they've developed them. They didn't, point out those blind spots to, I would say, come down on me, but to develop them. They've pointed out what I'm good at. Hey, you're really good at this. No, I didn't know that. Hey, you're excellent at that. We should develop that. You should
Mhm.
keep doing that. They've shared insights with me that made me curious and made me grow. And I look back upon that tenure with the leader and I'm like, wow, like I'm a better version of myself. I look at like the best leader one of the best leaders that I've ever had, like my mom and dad, and the things that
Mhm.
they taught me and the things that they
Mhm.
valued and they made me feel loved and cared for and the things that they've sacrificed for me to be better. It's kind of that. And then I look at my professional relationships, and obviously mom and dad are going to take a bullet for me, but I feel like the best leaders would probably take a bullet for me too. Not a chest shot, Chris, maybe a leg or something. Throw a
Glancing
leg up
blow.
there. Yeah, take a flesh wound, but they've
But
sacrificed for me.
I love where you're coming from with that, because here's the one word that I haven't used yet, which you're intimating to, and I want to see if it resonates with you, but the word is safe. You feel
Yeah,
safe to be the best version of who you can be. And
yeah.
I think that's a lot of what misses in corporate society today, which I work against every time I have a chance to work with a team, which as I work towards safe with my leaders because what I want them to do is I want them to make bold decisions. I want them to take
Mm.
ownership. I want them to get things wrong because if they're not getting things wrong in my world, they're not pushing hard enough, right? Which is when you take the safe bet, it's normally a conservative bet. I don't know if you guys play the stock market, put money on the ponies. I don't know, pick which pew to sit in church, right? How close to the front do I want to be? How far back do I want to be, right?
I'm
Because
in the splash zone.
I don't know if today I'm going to get the holy water, or I'm going to get the fire, right? So you got
Exactly.
to figure all that out. But from that perspective, the safety is what, as a leader, I feel like I am responsible to provide them. I have to give them that space to grow and expand themselves. But it's not always easy, right? Some of the people that work for me have said you say things in a way that I know you're disappointed. I was like, listen, I'm not disappointed. I'm only disappointed if you don't do anything with it. I say these things to give you the opportunity and then give you a space to go and play with it, right? Go and play
Mm.
with the feedback and see if you can do something better. I don't know. Does that resonate with you
It
both?
does. It
Yeah.
really does. It really
Yeah.
does. Because I think about the safety, the psychological safety, just I would say the if I could be honest, my insecurities could eat me alive. My imposter
Yeah.
syndrome is
All of us. Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time. And the leaders who have been the best in my life have made that imposter syndrome voice quieter.
Yeah.
They've made me feel safe to be my absolute
Mhm.
best. And when I'm not my absolute best, they were there to pick me up, brush me off, but
Mhm.
then push me to be my absolute best. Didn't
Mhm.
just let me
Mhm.
sit there. Weren't, I would say, the
Mhm.
country club leaders that just made me feel good and then
Mhm.
didn't push me
Mhm.
professionally.
Mhm.
But I feel like that safety thing is very important because I look at some of the leaders that I've had challenges with, and I didn't feel safe. In fact, I felt
Right.
extremely unsafe. And that
Right.
feeling of unsafety is very difficult to navigate. I've
Yeah.
never really figured that out. It's terrifying. It's terrifying when you think that you can't be your best. You have to be a different version of something that you don't even understand what it is
Right.
to even survive in an organization. You
Right.
put on masks and put on, hide. You do all these other things because you're scared, because yourself, you're just not safe.
Yeah. You go through the motions, your productivity drops,
It's
morale
tough.
drops, all of that. Yeah.
Well, Jake, I mean, I'd be interested, right? You've led people. Do you think
Yeah.
your teams would feel it when you were safe? Or do you think they would feel it when you didn't feel safe? Could they tell the difference? Yeah.
I mean, if we just look at the last 6 months at work, I think we can answer that question. So, as you know, we had an event just this week
Yes.
that's very much affected the feeling of safety.
And I think it's different, right? I do wanna say that, right? Because my dad worked for the same company for 40 years and got his, gold watch
Got
and
the gold watch.
and retired. Those days don't exist anymore, right? They
Yeah.
didn't
No.
even exist really even when I came into the workforce. They did for a little while, but GE was making that bottom 10% forced ranking meritocracy, right? Jack Welch was pounding that out in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, right? Then everybody said, "Oh, look, we can lay people off and make our quarterly numbers. It's okay." The reality is that's normal, right? You read about
Mhm.
Meta, you read about Facebook, you read about all these different other things that are going on out there, and that's just that's we've accepted it as just that's part of the way we navigate. So, as a leader in an organization who's trying to establish trust and trying to get things done, knowing that we live in a world where any of that can happen at any point in time, you can't lead with the narrative of, "Oh, don't worry, that doesn't happen here."
Right.
That narrative is gone. You don't
Yeah.
get to use that narrative. The only thing you can say is, "I'm gonna make you a better version of you than you ever thought possible. And so for the time that we have together, let's go do that together. Let's trust in each other to make that happen." Right? And then let's go do some pretty bold, audacious things that everybody said you couldn't do. And that's the kind of stuff that I love, right? You put me in that situation. And
Mhm.
I've had opportunities to walk into some companies where they've either lost their way, right? They've struggled. Most recent, the company that I was at, they had in the position that I filled in that vice president role, they had 7 people in that seat over the last 9 years. Just
Hmm.
let that sink in.
That's a
Executive
lot.
leader running 60% of the business, and they have 7 people in the last 9 years. Do you think there was consistency and trust in the employees that worked in that division? Mm-mm.
Impossible.
You're changing direction every year almost. Hard to make
Yep.
progress when you're spinning in circles.
Yep. So there's this foxhole mentality that adapts. If you guys understand foxholes, I'm a big
Yeah.
World War II guy, right? But you dig in and you build a fortress around yourself and you say, listen, I just do POs. I just do purchase orders. That's what I do. I don't know what that guy does. I don't know what that guy does. I'm just going to do the best POs that I can do every day. Well, the reality is you're part of a chain, right? You're part
Yeah.
of, when you think about the business, you're part of a chain. So if you're only thinking about your little link on that chain, you don't know whether the chain is strong on this side, weak on that side. You don't know if you're adding value, taking away value. You don't know if the work that's coming into your foxhole is good work and work that you can work with. And therefore, it's almost like accountability suffers, right? But what's more important to me is think about being alone in a foxhole.
Yeah.
That's freaking
It's
lonely.
terrifying.
I'm not a big isolationist. I tend to be more of a, hey, let's all figure out what everybody does,
Me
figure out
too.
where you are in the process, and maybe, and I learned this at Nielsen years ago in this process improvement, component that I went through, training that I went through, and I thought, you can't make this business any better. Me and my compatriots have figured this out. And then they brought this discipline in. And I was like, okay, wait. So we're going to take 20% of the cost out of the business. We're going to move quality up by points that we had never achieved. And we're going to be able to do this faster. And they're like,
Wow.
yeah, we're going to be able to do all that. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Two
Good luck.
years, 2 years of mind changing math and practice and rigor around that, where we practiced together as a team how to do these methods. And then we applied them to the business. And oh my God, it actually happened. It was actually even better than what we thought it was. And it made us a faster business. It made us more nimble. We could actually ask our customers what they wanted and give it to them like in a reasonable period of time. Whereas before that, we're like, yeah, probably 7 years. We'll start working on it today.
Yeah. It's on the
We'll get it to you
roadmap.
in 7 years. And that was amazing. So that kind of mindset is part of what I teach, the discipline that I've learned. I try to teach to the people that I work with or have the pleasure to work with. And that is anything's possible, but understand the levers, right? Understand the levers. And that goes all the way back to, I don't know, I go back to, I played a lot of baseball growing up. My dad was a massive baseball guy and he coached me. How many did your fathers do anything with you guys growing up?
Yeah. My
Yeah.
dad coached as well. I wasn't in baseball though. I was a track and football player.
Yeah. Did you like having your parent as your coach?
No. It was, yeah, because it never stopped.
It
But I
never
got
stopped.
it never
Yes.
stopped.
The
Uh,
disgust was still there at the next morning's breakfast or on the long, dusty ride home,
Yep.
with him in silence in the car when you knew that you were the catcher and the ball got by you and they scored the winning run and that you're like, Dad, I'm sorry. He's like, we practiced this 100 times. I'm just disappointed, So it's like I learned a lot of lessons through those long rides home, and what I learned was he never gave up on me. That was
Yeah.
the one thing. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
next day, we'd be back at it. So you guys were talking about your relationships with your parents earlier. That's the way I view a lot of similarity between family and work. Right? I've learned a lot. I've got the true joy of being married to the woman that I love, and I met 40 some odd years ago in college sweetheart, and we've built a
Nice.
family of 5 kids now with 2 daughter-in-laws, with my 2 older sons being married, but we built an amazing family. I was an only child, man. I was very lonely growing up, so we built this robust family unit, and I've learned more from them than I've ever taught them, right?
I bet.
I've watched them learn and grow and struggle through life, and I've been part of it. They've been lucky enough to include me. I've been lucky enough to have them include me. And that's the same thing that I transfer over to the leadership style that I have here, which is, it's firm, but it's with love at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's a component of it which is everybody's learning every single day. And you can't take that away from people. And you can't just tell people, well, just go do it. Okay.
Mhm.
Right.
I don't know. I had a boss recently that used to tell me that. Well, just go
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I'm like, okay, well, I understand my job as a leader is to go figure stuff out. I understand it, but I'm coming to you, my
For
boss,
help. Yeah.
for help. And I'm trying to figure out why I can't hit the fastball. why am I missing the fastball? Help me understand how it's being delivered from a right-handed or a left-handed pitcher. Why can I not hit it the same way? And his answer was, "Go figure it out." Right, and that didn't really help me. Do you think I went back for more advice? Didn't.
No.
No.
And when you work as a team on things like that, I found that it's a whole lot better. So you think about pressure, right? Track
Hmm.
and field pressure, right?
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
I don't know, were you doing relays or were you doing single person events?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
So
Yeah, it
you
was
Yeah.
got a
fun.
team
1, 2,
component
4 by
as
1,
well
4 by
as
4. Yep.
yeah. So you gotta get the baton, I'm
Hmm.
guessing, right? In the right place at the right time. Baton on the ground, not a good thing, right?
Not a good thing.
So how many times do you practice handoffs?
A million.
A million.
Yeah.
And still,
Okay.
and still, right?
And then keep going. And once you hit a million, now we're going for 2 million. Then
Yeah,
2 million, okay, 3
yeah,
million's up, and you never stop.
yeah.
You literally never stop. And I think to your point, Chris, going back to the whole just figure it out. I had a previous leader. His name is Brian Summerhays, fantastic leader. And he used to kind of say the same thing. It's very important that we're not coaching people like just go figure it out. He used to use the
Mhm.
analogy, hey, I need you to speak better Japanese to someone who doesn't know how to speak Japanese. You
Right.
say, hey, I need you to speak better Japanese. Your Japanese isn't where it needs to be. And it sounds the same in the sales environment. I just need you to hit goal. I need you to get these
Yeah,
sales and I need you
yeah,
to go figure it out.
yeah.
And someone's like, well, I don't know how to speak Japanese. I don't know how to get to goal. I don't understand how to do these different things. So it's
Right,
our job as a leader to not just say, I need you to pass that baton and it needs to be smooth, but
right.
actually get in the weeds and teach those folks that are used to
Yeah,
being in their foxholes how they can pass the baton to the next person, how they can work
bingo,
with the next person, how
bingo.
it actually makes it. And I feel like when
Yes,
we do that, that's when people
yes,
start coming out
yes,
of their shells. Because to your point, the company, the world, just in general, it is
yes.
is is unsafe. Like it's dark and full of terrors. But the cave, like our cave, right?
Yeah,
Where our team is, where the people that we work with, it's
yeah,
warm and it's safe. And we're
yeah.
going to prepare ourselves and we're going to make sure that we are comfortable and we trust ourselves and we're locked up. So when the
Mhm.
darkness does come, when the terrors do come, we're prepared to face them because they will
Yes.
come. And when they do come, we're ready as a unit, speaking in one voice, kind of like the Spartans all with the shields together
Yes,
and the
shield wall,
phalanx.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
shield wall to face it. And I feel the best teams that I've ever built have had that mentality where I can look to the person on the left of me and the right of me and know what they're doing and know
yeah,
they're doing their best and
yeah,
they're covering my butt, my neck and knee just like I'm covering theirs. But I've also been in other environments where the trust isn't there. And I've had a difficult time building it. Like any advice for coming into a new organization where there's already an established team, where there's a
yeah,
foxhole type of mentality and the safety isn't there. And you kind of have to like get through that.
yes. I'm sorry, I'm ruminating on that because that's the essence of what I do lately,
Yeah.
right? When I say lately, the last 10 to 15 years, I've had the opportunity to really master the art of growth and scale, and I understand the impediments, which you just perfectly said, right? The impediments to doing that. And there's 2 things, and Jake may remember this from early meetings, but there's 2 things that I still live by, which is things that I know are culture killers that if I hear, I know where we're starting from. It's just a marker, right? It's not like science, but it's a marker for me, which is when I sit at a room and I try to meet with individual teams, Jake mentioned it at the beginning, I kinda walk my walk or walk my talk. I am very much an in the weeds kinda guy when I have to be, and especially when I'm learning a new organization.
Me
The
too.
the most recent organization that I was part of, I probably didn't say anything for the first 3 months. Just I went and sat with teams. I went and listened to the other executives in the executive meetings that I was part of talking, right? And I tried to put it all together, tried to understand, does the frontline worker understand what the business is trying to do? And are they taking action on the work that's in front of them in a way that they're adding value, right? Are they getting good? Is the signal going good from top to bottom?
Yeah.
And is the
Mm.
signal going good left to right? That's kind of my first way of looking at new business, right? And so when I walk into these businesses that have struggled, most of them have come to me as an opportunity to say, we need help. right? We've either had too many leaders over the last couple of years and we have no consistency. We need somebody to step in. Or in the case of when Jake and I met, we've never had anybody with that discipline. We really need to develop that discipline. Or we've had somebody, they left, and we've kind of been lost ever since. We didn't have a good fallback plan. Like we didn't build a good safety net. And now we're lost and we need help getting it back on track. But all with the idea that it's employee centric, right? I look for companies that share my values at the end of the day because you can't always run the place although in a place where there's no oxygen, right? There's some places where I've been either consulting or working through with, how can I put it, friends in my industry, right? There was a couple of jobs that I've held where I had a lot of opportunity to go see other businesses, go see how they're run, go consult with the leaders who were doing similar roles as to myself in their real life environment. And they were asking for help. They were stuck. And there were some environments where I'm like, listen, you have a bigger problem with what's up and around you that you need to either fix, surface, or somewhat understand. You can manage to what's in front of you, the foxhole, right? You can manage that, but at some point you have to join the rest of the army, and you have to figure out
Mm,
how you're going to do that. Like, how do you bring your team forward so that either they can be a beacon for change, because that's possible, but how do you create a beacon for change or a mandate for change? Or how do you like insert your team, the team that you create, how do you insert them in a way that they don't get crushed?
right.
So those are more challenging components. But I'd say it starts by listening and understanding the frontline work and the signaling that's coming up and down and through the organization. I think that's the first thing that I always strive to. And then I look for where's the biggest pain point. And I derive my biggest pain point from customer. Like who's our customer and what are they telling us? I learned early on with a general manager I had at Nielsen when we got called to a meeting in New York of, you're sitting in the boardroom at CBS or TBS or NBC or whatever, right? And these guys are paying you millions of dollars for what numbers on a sheet of paper,
Right.
and they're not happy. They're not happy because it's affecting hundreds or billions of dollars for them in the overall. And they're like, "What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it?" Well, when your client's giving you that direct feedback, they're giving it to you 2 ways. They're giving you a functional amount of feedback, and they're giving you an emotional level of feedback, and you have to be able to take the 2 things apart as a good leader. I think you have to take the 2 things apart because you need to understand why the emotion is there and how it
Right.
got there, right? Because typically as the newer person, I'm never the one that put it there, but I'm the one that they're looking at right now and
To
saying,
fix
"You
it.
need to fix this," right? So, but I have to understand, how did you get there, right? Why are you so emotional? And typically it's your company's never listened to us, or every time they listen to us, they always come back with the wrong answer, or we've told 15 people this already. You're number 16. Why should we
Yeah.
even care anymore, right? So
Right.
there's a number of different things that can happen, but you got to understand where the customer's coming from. So emotionally, but functionally, what is it that's happening? Are we delivering late? Is there errors? Is there rework that's happening? Are we failing to meet our agreement with them in terms of our production level agreement, right? Do we sell them a widget but deliver a box? It does me no good to go buy a new car and not have any wheels on it. And they say, well, discount tires across the street. And I'm like, good. I'm glad discount tires across the street, but I need 4 tires on the
Yeah.
car
That's
here
not what you
in
sold
order to
me.
get over to discount tire, right? So, and when I bought the car, here's the key. I was expecting it to have tires. Now
Mm,
there's another component of what happens in the functional aspect of, well, when I bought this from you, and Jake, whether it be safety, right? Because we heard that a lot from people, which is I expected when somebody walked up to the doorbell would tell me somebody was at the door, right? I think actually at Vivint, I think we were the first ones to do the video doorbell as well and as nationally as it now today. It's a standard practice.
common.
But in
Yeah.
those early days, there was a lot of misunderstanding about what that thing was supposed to do. And
Mhm.
God love you, and I know you're more sales solo than maybe Jake is, but our sales guys could sell the hell out of it. Oh, this is gonna be life affirming, this is gonna be life changing.
Yeah.
The rest of us that had to deliver it was like, "Well, it doesn't quite do that." Yeah, it kinda does, but it doesn't quite do that, right? So there's the functional aspect of you. Sometimes you have to align on what it is that we're selling and buying from each other. So functional and emotional. right? But I had to split the two things and I had to treat them both separately. The emotional one I had to treat with the relationship. How did I do that?
Mm.
Back to what Myers said on the last, one of the last podcasts you guys had, right? It was about say do ratio. I had to get those folks and I had to get my internal team as well as my external clients to look at me and say, I trust you. I trust you. That doesn't come easy in any business. Doesn't come easy. Doesn't come easy with employees. Doesn't come easy. So it's say do. What do I say and what do I do? Again, back to walking the talk. I've got to make sure that I'm delivering that at 100%. Mitchell Habib, who was my COO at Nielsen, Mitchell came from GE and I think Citibank. He's still active in the industry. That was a hard lesson for me to learn, right? It was hard because we promised a lot of stuff and didn't deliver, and we were just like,
Mm.
"Don't worry, it's a 7-year contract. We'll figure it out. We have time to catch up. We'll figure it out." We were kicking the can down the road. Wasn't good.
Yeah.
He came in, held the mirror up, and said, "Listen, we don't do what we say we're going to do. We have to get better at that."
Yeah.
And that still resonates with me today, especially in walking into any new company. You have to start there, establish the trust with the customer, and then bring that customer voice. Big one for me. Bring the customer voice into the business. People that process the POs, people that answer the phones in customer service, people that go out in the trucks and do the work. They have to understand why. They have to
Yeah.
know their why they're doing it. Like, what is the payoff? Because what I try to connect for them is this is how money comes into the business. And the money that comes into the business allows me to pay you, give you paid vacation, participate in your benefits, put free coffee in the break room, right? I mean, all that happens because you do this quality work for that customer and deliver that outcome. And when you can tie it together in very meaningful ways that people can understand of how my work matters and what my contribution is to the team, I might be on the roster of the NFL, which is kind of my favorite thing, right? You got a 52-man roster. You don't see all 52 men on the field in every single
Mm-mm.
game, but
Mm-mm.
they're there. And what do? Well, they're the guys during the week that are practicing against the guys you do see on the field. They're making
Yeah.
them better, right? They make them better. They practice their own trade as part of that. And when people realize you don't have to be the star pony, but you can absolutely contribute to the outcomes that we have. And it's good for you. You're going to learn something and it's good for your career, right? If you're building a career or if you just have a job, and there's plenty of people that work for me and have worked for me over the years that just have a job and they want to be able to come in at 8, leave at 4 and have a good time and
Yeah.
do good work, right? And so you have to manage all of those components, but understand the emotional aspect, understand the functional aspect, be able to tie that why from the customer back into what you're doing every single day, and then align what you're going to go and attack with that outcome. Because
Mm.
if you make it easier, and I'm a big believer in frictionless, and it sounds funny, but frictionless. If you make it easier for your customer to want to do business with you, guess what will happen?
They
They'll
will.
do more business with
I'll
you.
do more business with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a guarantee, but it's in most cases, that's what's gonna happen. Aware of how their business works. That's kinda next level thinking, right? Once you fix the basics that we
Mhm.
just talked about, you start to think about what does my client want to do next? Now, where did I learn that? Guy you may remember from a few years back, a guy named Dave Calhoun was the CEO of Boeing at a not
Mhm.
so great time, right? Because planes were falling out of the sky. Feel bad for Dave. I had Dave as my CEO before he went there. He was the CEO of
Mm.
Nielsen, came over after 25 years at GE. When Immelt got the nod and he didn't, he came over and was our CEO. But he taught me a lot about being with the client, right? He taught us a lot. He would go out and he would actually circle the globe. We had 40,000 employees, 109 countries, right? We did business in Africa, Europe, Australia, whatever. He'd go and sit with the clients and he'd say, listen, tell me where we're missing the mark. That like was the opening question. Tell me where we're not getting it done for you. And he would bring that back to the rest of us in town halls and say, I sat with the CEO of Procter and Gamble. Here's what they told me. They told me that this is really, really hard for them to use our product. And he'd look at the rest of us and he said, I can't fix it. And he'd look at all of us and he said, you're the folks that can fix it. How do we
Yeah.
get better at it? Right. So you include the team on the problem solving, right? It doesn't always have to be top down. The fastest way to move an organization towards scale, towards success, is to include everybody in the organization in solving the problem for the customer. That's the fastest way to do it. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I don't know how you guys feel about, your
I'm
organization,
not.
but it's the power of the we,
Yep.
not me, the power of the we that that makes it happen. And the more you can generate a safe, trusting, high skilled, high resourced, high engagement environment, the faster you can move. And it's not always that you're going to get it right, but you fail fast and you learn and then you move on. And Jake, I don't know if you remember this from our time together, but one of the big things that I love, 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 love is customer reviews, right? So think of Google, think of Amazon, think of Yelp. I'm not so much a Yelp guy, but because I believe in the other, I guess, more established mediums for feedback from customers. But more importantly, if you're good at engaging with a set of customers, especially if it's relational, and I want to talk about that for just a minute, but I've pretty much been in relational businesses, not transactional, but
Right.
relational businesses. And that you want to know how that relationship is being built over time. So you survey them routinely. Jake, I think you probably remember when when we would
Qualtrics.
set up an appointment for your guys to go out to the home after they
Yeah.
went, sent a survey. And we said, how did we do? How did Jake's guy do? And they'll give you feedback. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
not about Jake's guy. Sometimes it can be about the person that set the appointment. Sometimes it's about the color of the website. I
Right.
don't right, but they give you feedback. And then you use that to get better, right? You listen to
Mhm.
the crowd, you use that information to get better, but you have to believe in it. One of the things, that comes out of that is what I call a root cause analysis, right? That's a common industry term, root cause analysis, and other people call it after action reports, different things like that. Solo, you probably hopefully you use it in your prospecting component with salespeople, because I think that's where it's probably the most beneficial. I've found the most value, which is I wanna go through that sale process with you. I wanna understand everything you did. I wanna understand everything you did in order, right? I wanna understand the processes and the communication that you had. I wanna understand how you built trust. I wanna understand how you built relationship. I wanna understand how you introduced price. I wanna understand all that. That's sales relationship. In a delivery relationship, you're looking at, were we on time? Did we have the product? Was the customer satisfied? Did we clean up after ourselves, right? Did we do all those other things that needed to get done? And if we didn't, guess what happens? Go ahead.
You,
Guess.
They're not happy.
They're not
yeah.
happy.
Yeah. And
They're
they'll
not
tell
happy.
you.
They'll take you
Yeah,
to
and they'll
task.
tell you. They'll tell you they're not happy. They're not
They'll
happy
tell you,
about
and then they'll tell like 15 of their friends.
that's
Yeah.
that's the multiplier. That's when you understand the math. There's math in all this, right? But that's the multiplier that kills you as a company. Kills you as a company, right? It takes one bad experience and a whole bunch of and I should know this off the top of my head. I've quoted this before, but the magnitude at which that spreads, a bad experience, like, well, Chris's guy came into my house today, and you know what? He came in with dirty feet on my new white carpet, and then he actually dropped his toolbox on my new grand piano and scratched it.
And
Mm.
now
Yeah,
it's on. And now it's on
he
video.
fixed the problem, but oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was a horrible experience.
Because they're
And
showing it on Instagram and TikTok now. So it's we don't even need to survey them.
that's right.
You just need to watch
That's
their feed.
that's
And they
exactly
make
right.
and the AI makes the piano scratch twice as
Oh,
big.
yeah, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it just accelerates from there, and then they put it to music, and you got a song going, and then the
Yeah.
whole thing, right? But here's the thing, right? How many of those do you see that are good, right? Because the good ones are
Right.
almost, I'm not gonna say almost expected, but they're just cemented in that person. Steve, who you've had on before, used to talk about what he called the driveway conversation. And for those of us that do business at homes, right? I've been in home solar, I've been in home security, I've been in home research, some other things like that. But when you're at the home, that's people's primary place, right? It's
Yeah.
you've got to covet that. You've got to treat that with the respect that it has to them, right? And your people have to show up early. They have to show up well dressed in your uniform or in your outfit the way you've prescribed. They've got to smell good. They've got to look good. They've got to be smiling. They've got to know how to come up and knock on the door, step away from the door so you're not threatening, because typically our guys are, you know,
Big guys.
guys that are
Yeah.
big guys with toolboxes and different things like that. Or could be a salesperson, even still, female, male, doesn't matter. You don't want to be threatening to them. This is their
Right.
home, right? You don't
Right.
want to be threatening to them. But understand, look around the yard, see the kids' toys, see the dog leashes. Understand that you've got an opening to say, huh, how the kids doing today? I see their stuff out here in the yard, right? You try to find a common ground, try to make that peace and then go and do your job really, really well, whether that's
Yeah.
selling, whether that's servicing, whether that's assessing, but build a relationship because people want to know how much you care before
Yeah.
they care how much you know. You've heard that before, but that's true. It's true
It
in
is.
all that you do. And then draw the customer into you and find out what they need and deliver not only what you're there to deliver, whether it be the sale, whether it be the follow-up service, whether it be an installation, but deliver it and deliver it with care. And then ask the question, is there anything else? Is there anything else I can do for you? Right? Because if you've built trust, you certainly have delivered value. And
Right.
if they've gotten value from that, better for you. But all this to say, that frontline person who is supported by all, whether it be salespeople, whether it be a technician, all the thousands of people or hundreds of people that are in the back office that got that work to that point, that one person is the one delivering it to the customer. And I can't overemphasize this enough to either my call center agents or to the salespeople or to the field service people that are delivering to somebody in a residential setting. And the same applies for commercial. If it's
Mhm.
somebody's business that they've hard fought blood, sweat, and tears to get it to that point and you're delivering for them, same kind of thing. Small enterprise, big enterprise, doesn't matter. They just want it to work right. And they want to know that you care enough about it that you care more about it than they do, right? You're going
Right.
to deliver that outcome. And I think that kind of mindset back to what I think you asked 10 minutes ago, finally getting there, but that mindset of what makes a good team? Well, I want to hear from a team something other than, well, the book says. Okay. If you're going to tell me that you did it exactly the way the book says, guess what I'm going to tell you? Good. Guess what I'm going to tell you?
Well, someone
You
wrote
can't
that
you can't use
book.
those words on the podcast, Chris.
Yeah.
The reality is we all write books, right? We write
Yeah.
Yep.
SOPs and processes. I'm a big believer in all that stuff, but they're guides, right?
Yeah.
They're guides. And the minute that they're written, the world has already changed, right?
It's
So
already evolved.
they're a guide to get you there. So if that's what you're hiding behind is your shield wall, which is, well, that's what the book says. I did exactly what they wrote in 1978. I don't understand why it didn't work, right? That's probably why. Okay, you're not thinking, right? Use what God gave you.
Mhm.
Um, or that's the way we've always done it. Have any of you guys ever heard that from one
Oh,
of your
oh,
coworkers?
oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Every time I start a new job, that's
Does
what
it
I
make
hear.
you feel warm and cozy inside? That's the way we've
Oh,
always
if
done it?
that's the way you always done it, let's just keep doing that since it's not working.
Bingo. How has that worked for you?
Yeah.
I'm fine if that's the way we've always done it and it gets us a 40% margin return 100% of the time,
Let's keep
let's
doing
keep
it.
doing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go. But typically it doesn't, right?
No.
Typically it doesn't. It's a outdated, it's an undermanaged, outcome at the end of the
Mhm.
day. And then when you tell people, listen, well, do you have some ideas on how to make it better? Oh yeah, Chris, I sent them in 2 years ago, but I never heard anything back.
Well, tell me.
Okay, well, can you send them to me? Because
Yeah.
I'd really like to understand what you think we could do better. Oh yeah, the list has actually grown since 2 years ago. Okay, great, send it to me. Right. So I'm a big believer in getting feedback from
That's that's
not only the
so good,
customer,
Chris.
but the customer is also your internal customer. And because
Can I
they're the ones that have to deal with the blowback when things don't work. And they
right.
typically have a better solution for you. And all they need a safe place to try it. They need a leader who will help champion it. And then we need to go out and measure it, right? Can't
Right.
do it without the measurement. Got to be able to measure it. But at the end of the day, what do you think happens when that person gives me that list? We go and do the top 3 things on her list and they work, right? 2 out of the 3 of them work and generate a 20% better outcome.
They're
What do you think
engaged, they're
happens to her?
happy. They're on the boat. She's elated.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
ready.
Mhm.
that's right.
She
She's
becomes
on the
one of
boat.
those folks that are ready to scale that mountain and
Yes.
plant that flag.
Yep. And so we put her up in front of the next lunch and learn that we have. We put her face on the TVs around the board and say, look what Alyssa did. Alyssa generated a 20% improvement in our pass through of our purchase order
So
process.
good.
She's been able to get bills to the customers that are more accurate, more timely, and the customers pay on time, which is
That's
good for
awesome.
all of us because then we can
Yeah.
pay your salaries, right? At the end of the day. So
That's
good way to go, Alyssa. Anybody else have
that's
any
so good,
ideas, right?
right?
Yeah.
Chris, I know we're at time. I want to be respectful of your time, but I also have a selfish question. So can I ask you one more?
All day long.
So this is so great. I am literally starting Monday in the position to be hiring for a frontline sales manager, a
Mm,
manager who I am going to trust to steward the lives of 10, 12 frontline agents that are
mm,
responsible for taking that message of service all the way to the customer and executing that mission and that vision that we have.
mhm, mhm,
And I believe that everything rises and falls with the leader. If the
mhm.
leader isn't the best, then the agents can't possibly be their
No.
best. And the customer is going to see that, smell that, feel that all day.
Yep.
So you talked about making sure that you get the right people in the boat, finding the
Mhm,
capable people, putting them,
mhm,
giving them the tools. How do you find the Jakes? How do you find those capable people? Like, what are some
mhm,
competencies or some things that you look for, like
mhm.
in a person that's going to lead people?
Wow. Okay. They said you asked the hard questions, and sure enough, you
That's a tough one because honestly, it's probably one of
yep.
the most important. It's my first leadership installation
Eh,
since coming to a new company, so it will be
yeah,
impactful.
Takes
it's
the
a reflection
time.
on you, right? It's certainly a reflection on the team. It's gonna either, in a sense, move the team forward or potentially hope it doesn't, right? But it could have a regressive approach
Right,
to the team in the short
right.
term until it kind of fixes itself. But what do you so I'm gonna ask you a clarifying question. Do you know what you think it's gonna take to win in this segment that this person's gonna be overseeing? Like, do you have defined outcomes that you know that you want from this new leader?
I do think that to your point, the safety hasn't necessarily been there. Well,
Mhm.
first and foremost, the communication from the top to the bottom, broken. Side to side, pretty busted. And when it was aligned side to side,
Mhm,
in my opinion, there was a lot of, I would say, crummies in the tummies
mhm,
because of some
mhm,
of the maybe broken promises or misexpectations, misalignments, things of that nature. So, just in general, the trust and engagement on the team was a little bit frayed, at least from what I experienced in it when I first came in, whether it be a communication issue, alignment issue, past. I expected this and it wasn't that issue. So, this leader has to be very aligned with the message up and down. And I do believe that I know what that looks like when it comes to the actual competencies. And they have to be very, I would say, culturally impactful, i.e., some people you just walk into a room and they just make it brighter. You just
mhm,
talk to them and
mhm.
they just make it better. Other folks, you feel like you talk to them, you need to go take a shower. Like they're just like, you're heavy. Like
Yeah.
they have to be one of those bright folks because there's some, I would say, needed.
So there's an element what you just described is an element that you have to suss out in your are you doing interviews or where are you? Okay, so you're to that point in the process. So you're gonna have to suss out how that person makes you feel, right? Now, keep in mind, sucking up to the boss, which you will be to this person,
Hmm.
is one thing. I've seen many people that are great at sucking up to the boss, and I don't use that word in a negative connotation. I mean, just like they can
That's
speak
just their
your language
personality.
easier
Right.
than they can speak the language below them. So they have your language
Mm.
down, but they can't necessarily speak. So you're going to have to ask questions that turn that thing on its ear. Now, here's one thing that I do, and you can choose to do this or not do it, but I tend to involve my subordinates in the hiring process. I will still make the final decision, and I will spend one-on-one time with somebody, but if I know I've got somebody that's vested in the outcome of the person that I'm hiring, either as a partner, left to right, right, or as a subordinate, maybe even up and down, there's somebody that's a strong player on the team that will be directly either impactful to the new leader or impacted by negatively in a bad way by the new leader. I actually want their opinion. right? I
Yeah.
want their opinion. I don't necessarily believe that they and I tell them this, listen, you're not going to be making, I'll still be making the hiring decision. What I want you to do is sit in here and ask some questions about what you know the team needs. Ask some questions about what you think you need and listen to how that's going. And when you introduce that person into the conversation with the interviewee, right? Say, listen, this is the person that's on the team today, right? I asked Margaret or Jim or whoever to come in and sit in with me, right? As we're going through these early stages of the recruiting process. So they may have something to say. And
It's
sometimes they
awesome.
may just sit and listen and give you feedback afterwards. But I've found that when you're trying to build a high performing team fast is what I'm saying. You can get to a better outcome by selecting somebody who's trusted by you, who you believe is very pragmatic and very open and very honest, where you have a good working relationship with, and involve them in the hiring process. That's one way. Second way is for
It's
you to
good.
do the first whole group yourself, figure out the ones that you think have the value or ask the questions that get down to, tell me where you've done this before. Tell me where you fixed a problem before. Tell me where you had a team that was underperforming and you moved that team forward. Share with me some of the results you've been able to achieve at your most recent company when people told you it couldn't be done, right? Push them into a corner. You want to push them into a corner where they have, and they should have these kind of experiences at this level, right? Where they have to do something hard that maybe was against the grain of the culture and maybe even against the grain of the team in order to get an outcome that ultimately served everybody, served their employees and served the bottom line. But you want to push them into that type of conversation, see what they have for you. And if they don't have a whole lot of depth there, you probably don't want a first timer, right?
Right.
Somebody who's going to do it for the first time with you. You might be willing to take more of that type of risk with somebody who works for you, who you're trying to level up,
Prune, develop.
right?
Right.
Because you already have the established trust. But with somebody from the outside, you want somebody that's going to be impactful. You want somebody who's still going to be aligned with your vision too, right? So it has to be both things. But push down hard on the questions that get them to tell you a story about where they've had to do some of those hard things in the past. You can also do that first, like I said, first pass with yourself, and then include maybe some of your other leaders. And sometimes that means I would include salespeople when I was in an ops role. I would include ops people when I was in a sales role.
Hmm.
In a sense, understand who the customer is internally and have maybe the customer sit in of who's the customer of that person that's going to be that person's unit. And
Mhm.
they can talk about what some of the past history has been and maybe why it's been less than stellar and what they need from a partner going forward. You may get a different perspective. And I am a big believer, believe it or not, I am a big believer. And Jake, I don't know, maybe you remember this when we were meeting up in Park City one time and we did this thing called the predictive index. And it is a tool that I have come to know over the last 20 years that I absolutely live by. I've taken it 3 times myself
Predictive
because
index.
sometimes I do it from the standpoint of, do things change? And what I've found is no, I've just gotten stronger in the result that I get, right? And there's 16 personas that come out of it, and it probably takes, I don't know, 5 minutes to administer. But Jake, if you remember, one of the things that the guy did, he picked my profile and started to explain who this person was. He said, I'm gonna give you some of the characteristics of this person." And they had to guess. You guys guessed a lot of different people. Eventually, you guessed me. But and he looked at me and he says, "Have you been in a marriage?" And I was like, "Yeah." But at that point, I don't know. I was married to my wife 30 years. He's like, "The same woman?" And I was like, "Yeah, same woman." He's like, "Oh my god, she's a saint. You should go home and tell her today she because you have a characteristic that you are probably one of the hardest people in the world ever to deal with, and you probably make her life a living hell. And if she has stuck with you this
She's
long."
a saint.
Given you 5 wonderful children, you need to go home and kiss her feet. So with Mother's Day around the corner, right, I'm reminded again that I have to
Oh,
make sure that she knows how I feel about her, right?
That's
Because,
awesome.
she's a teammate for me on my home team, which
Mhm.
allows me to be successful at my work team. And,
Yeah.
and that's a key component. So I guess solo, I'd say utilize some of those other viewpoints to help shape
I
your
see.
viewpoint. And if you have a tool like that, I don't know if your company uses anything like that. Predictive index is one of many, but try to get an assessment. And because what I've found that tells you is fit longer term. somebody
Right.
can tell you something in an interview, "Oh, yeah, I can do that. Oh, yeah, I'm good with that." Like, I could tell you, "Oh, I love to work with spreadsheets and finances." I
Yeah.
do, to a point, to a point. Not like a CFO who would do that
Right.
all day long
All
every
day
day.
and just be loving it.
Yeah. So I think it's important to understand where the truth, where the truth lies in that. Not that people are lying to you. I'm not indicating that. I'm just saying there's a level of embellishment that I think we all do during
Yeah. Right.
an interview, and that's good because we're selling ourselves, and you have to
Right.
be able to do that too.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I don't know if that helps you or
Awesome.
not, but I'd like to
It
hear how it
helps.
turns out.
Oh, I'm gonna let you. You already
Hell,
messed
I'll
up,
sit in on
Chris.
the
I'm
interview
gonna.
with you if you really want.
Hey,
If I
come
go
through.
left,
You messed up. You messed up, Chris, because I'm gonna be blowing you up on all kinds of different stuff. I have some questions that I have to ask you, sir, that can't be recorded.
I
Because
understand that, and I was
yeah.
very
So
careful in my response there to not go maybe whenever you hit the stop record button, we can talk about that.
I appreciate you, man. I really do. So you've got I'm
Absolutely.
gonna send over my mentee application after the podcast, Chris. So just review it and we can have an interview on if I'm a good mentee and you being my new mentor.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Hey,
Yep.
you know what? It's a real I don't know, you get a little older in your career, which I am, and I'm lucky enough to be able to offer my time, to folks who are next, right, at the end of the day, and I love that. Probably the biggest thing in, in the teams that I've led recently has been about building those folks 25 to 35 years old and giving them opportunities and confidence to step forward and knowing that they're going to do it better than I did it, right? And that's very rewarding at the end of the day.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Chris, I'm sorry. Chris Solomon Solo. I'm sorry. He just said the cutoff is age 35. You and I are off the list.
I can
No, I just said that was the that
again,
was
that
the
was
that
that
was
was his
the that was the
that was his
population.
passion. He also said people in the interview, Jake, embellish, and I have no problem shaving off a good couple years on my age if he asks. Okay,
And we can
And even me, and I am a little further along than 35, but even me, I still have people that I call that
have.
are my mentors, right, at the end of the day, and they're very diverse. I will tell you they're a wide range from a colonel in the United States Marine Corps
wow,
to a guy and a gal that hang their own shingle to other folks who are leading multinational companies. It's a wide range of people that I still rely on for advice, feedback, and sometimes just a conversation. And I think
yeah,
I think it's important getting back to the humanistic component of all of this. I think it's really important to connect with people at the end of the day.
Is that
I
Garth
love
you're
that.
referencing? Your colonel in the Marines?
Yeah, actually, you remember Garth. He
I
just
remember Garth. He
he
just
just,
retired.
he just received his full retirement, 31 years, USMC full colonel. Just had it happen last month in April, up at the, United States Marine Corps, Historical Center in Washington, DC. It was I didn't have a chance to go. I had a chance to see it after the fact, but that guy has seen the world in a different
Has
in a
he?
different view than
Yeah.
the rest of us.
Oh yeah,
And he is still probably the most positive, the most gung ho, to use that terminology, right? Person that I could ever be. And you talked about solo. You talked about that person you walk into the room. He is that guy.
he's one of those guys.
He's
Colonel
great.
Garth Massey, look him up. It's worth the time. He is running a development center for young leaders and teams and older leaders in South Carolina. Has built it by hand himself, and it is a lifelong dream of his to continue to add value back into the environment that we all work in every day. And love the man from that perspective, right?
Yeah, you want to do a
Chris, where are
leadership
you
retreat.
located in the country?
So right now I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Okay,
So I have been again. I'll say one other thing for those of you younger in career, right? I was never afraid to raise my hand and say, "I'll try.
I'll do it.
I'll
Yeah,
try." Yeah, and
Drive
so
location.
I've had the joy of living in 13 different places over the course of my career with my wife and my family. They've been very supportive of that, but I've seen some amazing things as a result of that. But don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to try, and don't be afraid to fail, because it's in the failure that you learn what you can do better.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's awesome.
Chris, we appreciate you so much. This
Thank
is
you,
Yeah,
guys.
this
we
has
do.
been amazing. I'm gonna have to rewatch this a few times just to
Me
get
too.
all of the
I got.
nuggets because
I literally
there's
have
so
7
many.
pages of notes.
This is
Send
truly
you've
really been
got
an
my
honor.
email, so send along your application. I'll put it in the stack.
I'm gonna send the application, and I'm
Put it
excited.
right on
You were
top.
talking about how just having a wide breadth of just people that you count on,
It's
and they say,
important.
yeah, they say the network is your net worth, and
Mhm.
you hear that it's not what you know, it's who you know, and I think that that's true, but I think a lot of people have it twisted. I was in a Uber with my COO. A bunch of us directors were up at Chicago because we took a trip and we were waiting to go back to the airport. And there's like 10 directors. And my COO runs out and he's jumping in a car. He's like, hey, you guys want to ride with me? And everyone's like, nah. I was like, I will.
I will.
I'm one of those. I'll come. And we were in the back of that. We had an hour and 30-minute conversation. He was talking about how your network is your net worth, and it's not what you know, it's who you know. But it's because the who you know is not going to give you some opportunity or some open door, which could be possible,
Right.
but they'll give you knowledge. They'll give you insight. He was talking about how he went to Northwestern for his MBA.
Mhm.
And he kept studying and studying. And it took him like 5 years to get in because he had to get a certain score on whatever test you have to do to
Right.
get into your master's. And he finally got the score. He interviewed and they said, well, you've been in, you're a C-suite. We would have just let you in because of your work experience. You didn't have to pass that. And he goes, really? That would save me 4 years. A couple weeks later, his buddy calls him. He's like, man, I'm trying to get into Northwestern too. Like, how was it? Yada, yada. And I can't pass this test. Like, I can't pass this test. He goes, don't worry about it. They told me because of our positions, because of where you're at, they'll just let you in anyway. He applies, gets right in, saves him 4 years. So
That's how it works. Pay it forward,
that's
right?
how it works, right? That's
Yep.
how it works. So I appreciate the breadth of wisdom that you are
I
going
want
to
to go
pass
back
on
to the
me.
taxi cab for just a minute, though. I want to go back to the taxi cab, right?
All right.
Why? And Solo, give me your current title at where you were.
VP of sales.
So VP. So you've now created a cloak of radioactivity around yourself just by getting that title. So when you talked about the COO getting in the
Yeah,
car, right?
it's true.
I remember when I got my first VP level title, my boss said, listen, I hate to do this to you. I'm happy for you, but I hate to do this to you. You're now going to eat lunch alone for the rest of your life. Because
Yeah.
we used to have a cafeteria, right? And we always used to go down and we'd be part of all that. And sure enough, it was like, what just happened, right? The next week, I'm sitting by myself eating lunch when we used to like cook
Hang
because now
out
I'm
and
the
yeah.
boss. And it's like, stop all that. It's just a title. I'm still who I am, right? So I think when back to the humanistic point of it, it doesn't matter. Forget what I'm called. It just means that I've been here longer than you are, or maybe a little bit smarter about something that happened before. None of that stuff matters, right? So
Yeah,
make it happen on the personal level. Keep it personal, and the world opens up to you. No doubt about
that's
it.
good. We're all deserving of the styrofoam cup. Have you heard Simon Sinek talk about that, gents?
I love Simon Sinek, but yes,
Me
we
too.
are.
We are. For our audience, I think it was a high-level military person who went on CNN, and they when he got there, they let him in through the back, and they had this green room for him, and they actually had this like mug that he had with coffee that had his like name and his title and all this other stuff. And he went on and he did his thing. And then about 10 years later, after he was retired, he wasn't anybody in a big spot anymore. They invited him back to talk about something else. He had to wait in line like everyone else at the front, be metal detected by security. Hey, walked him back and he had to sit in the green room with everybody else. And he walked up and he asked someone, hey, can I get some coffee? She said, yeah, it's over there. Grabbed the styrofoam cup, got the coffee, and was thinking that, wow, last time I was here, I had this huge, beautiful mug that was custom to me, and now I'm drinking out of a styrofoam cup. And he realized that the mug was for the title. It wasn't for him. He was deserving of the styrofoam cup like all of us are, because we're all just
Yeah.
regular people
And don't
out
ever
here trying to
forget
do our
that.
best.
Don't ever forget that,
I'll
right?
never
So
forget
as a
that.
leader, drink from the styrofoam cup all the time, right?
Love that.
Simon Sinek is a big. I'm a fanboy, but
Me
it's
too.
leaders eat last, right? And
Yep.
the infinite game, right? Which
Yeah.
is don't run your business for the quarter. I understand you may have to, but think of it as an infinite mindset, right?
Mm.
How do I keep winning? How do I keep winning
Keep the
customers?
game
How do I
going.
keep growing? How do I keep the game going?
Yeah.
You're
And
stuck.
with the infinite mindset, it all changes, right, at the end of the day. So, big fan of his. Styrofoam
Me
cup's
too.
new to
Yeah.
me, though, so I'll use that one too.
All right.
Awesome. Well, Chris, again, thank you. This has been wonderful.
Thank you, guys.